Okay, hi. So, hello, this is my podcast, Let Me Go on a Tangent, and I've got a very special gift for us this week. We're gonna have our first multiple person episode. So, I'm here with Andrew, say hi,
Hello.
and Julissa.
Hey.
With the setup right now is that we're in the one person pod bay. So if the audio is bad, how about you just be okay with it? How about you just be cool with it, okay? The way it's only one mic, so we're literally, if you hear any squeaks, that's why. I'm literally
We're swiveling around the mic as we speak. So literally right now, POV, I'm speaking into this mic as Alyssa's holding it and she's going to swirl it back to her.
yes, it's like kind of interview-esque. I might have to turn down the volume a little bit. Okay, so it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I'm very excited to do it. I'm hoping that by next week the multiple person one will be fixed because there was shit with the computer in there. There was no Adobe. I don't know what's going on with that, but we're in the single one. We're here and we're going to talk about Jaws. So, how do we feel about the movie Jaws? Andrew, you go first.
Jaws is the first blockbuster of the world, and it lives up to that title. It offers thrilling action, amazing characters, and it holds up even today. What do you think, Julie?
So I'm kind of biased in this film. It's my favorite movie of all time. And I will go on that hill and speak it to the world. And so, but other than that, I say it's a really good film. You got storyline, you got really great visuals, you got color gradings amazing on there. The color on there is like crazy. The editing on it is also really cool because it was one of the first. I have to double check that, but I believe it's one of the first. I'm gonna give you all these random facts right now. I have to like double check myself though, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the first films that was ever like nominated with a female editor, and then she went on to do bigger. So she started off as like, let me fact check myself before this, so you might have to edit this out. Okay. So she started off as like a very low like position job, and then she got the job as like an editor somehow. And then when it did really well, she went up in the ranks, and now, well, I don't know if she's still living, but at Universal she managed to get like a really high position in the Universal world. So I want to say her name is Janice, but I don't think Verna Fields is our editor. She is dead, but she did great things during her time, and because of Jaws' success, she managed to go up in the ranks, and she is incredible.
R.I.P. Verna.
R.I.P. Verna. We love your work. So, my feelings about Jaws, I was a little skeptical at first because, the culture around these types of films specifically is like the film bros, and they're kind of like, if you haven't seen like Pulp Fiction, if you haven't seen The Godfather, you don't know what film is. And my response to that is, I refuse to watch this movie because fuck you. I like out of spite. But since my very good friend wanted to talk about it, so I watched it and I turned a corner. I really enjoyed Jaws. I think there's a lot to like, and I think it's really impressive for how early it is, and also like, it is history for a reason. It has all the success, and some things. I still haven't watched Pulp Fiction, The Godfather, but I'm gonna speak with complete certainty. I think that it's better than them in that regard. Complete certainty. Okay, edit that out later. They're gonna get me. They're gonna come for my soul. So how this is gonna work now, I took notes on the actual movie as I was watching it, so we're just gonna go run down the notes. My partners here have not seen my notes yet, so this is new to them. So we might actually have some other reactions to what I wrote, but we're just gonna go down the list. So we start with the opening scene, opening music score, iconic. The opening scene with Chrissy getting mauled to death with I think I researched this part specifically. This opening scene where the chick gets mauled, the actress who played that character, there was some like rumors that she was actually like drowning, but that was debunked as myth. She just was really good at her job, and good for her.
Oh, I thought you had.
I
something.
thought I had told Andrew when we were watching this, and I was like, I'm pretty sure there was like something about her getting injured, and like her screams are the actual screams. So that's unfortunate. That would have been cool though, but yeah, it was a very like scary scream because she's like, ah! But yeah, she gave great visuals once again. The film it slays.
It's literally like she's getting yanked around, like how alligators do that roll, the death roll. It's literally like that, but in water, which makes it 1,000 times worse.
Actually, we don't even see the shark. So this is a big thing in the film because as infamously it is, Bruce the shark was never Bruce is the name of the animatronic, by the way. Just a little a little fact for you guys. Oh.
There we go. No, you keep.
Oh,
keep going.
okay. Bruce was the name of the shark, and he kept malfunctioning. So a lot of the film doesn't feature him, the shark, in it, just because they could never get the robotics to work really well. And I'm sure this is something you might have taken notes on. So it's kind of building on that suspense of like, oh, like fearing something you never really see. And I don't know if there's an earlier example of this. There probably is. But Jaws did it very well, and it did really well. And I think in the horror genre, there's always that kind of suspense with music now, and the score for Jaws, the dun 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 dun, you associate that noise with fear, and you get really scared just because of like the I don't know, I'm not a music person, but
Who is the composer of Jaws?
it's a person that didn't like really well.
But the music overall, I think it is great. It was John Williams. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. Anyways, so John Williams killed it. Obviously, it's so iconic that even like now we're still talking about it, and I think it's kind of like the blueprint of how to make an infamous soundtrack. And I mean, there's a lot of creature films that exist, but it kind of feels like a slasher film in a way.
It's definitely more a man versus which
Yeah.
I'm sure you might have taken notes on that too. So
Something else about the music, I found it fascinating how little of it there was. It was used very sparingly and very effectively. When you compare that style to like current movies, there's music across like almost every scene, save for like maybe an emotional scene, and even then it depends on the genre. I just think it's so interesting how different like filmmaking is, and it's probably like this probably influenced it in a weird way, even though like modern day films are so different because it like it was the first blockbuster. So it was like, okay, it set the precedent for like here's how we use music. It was just so fascinating because since it was used so sparingly, the parts that they chose to use it, like the iconic, it was like perfect. He did kill it.
yeah. I feel like it also kind of aligns with February or not February. Sorry, we are in February. But Friday the 13th,
February the 13th.
isn't there like it's like kind of like he's like he kind of makes
No,
Yeah,
he has
yeah.
Sound, he has the sounds that he has, like the little like.
Yeah.
So,
So
it set the whole
that
thing.
kind of like audio I feel like was probably set from I don't know. I'm sure there
Jaws.
was a different example, but it just reminds you like how the horror genre kind of stays in one place and it not one place, but like they reuse some like reoccurring themes because it's present in that genre.
Sort of like how they use tropes. It's sort of a similar idea where it's like they use senses in a very effective way. Let's move on with after the opening scene where the girl gets chomped, we cut to the chief of police. What is his name? Chief Brody. I know I wrote his name somewhere, but so he's the chief of police, and he gets called to be like, "There's a dead body. It's a shark attack," and he tries then to like, okay, no one go in the water because he's a good chief of police, if there is such a thing. And one I wrote here once again, bureaucracy foils his obligations. Once again, capitalism causes innumerable and avoidable deaths.
That is a big plot point in the film, though, is capitalism. Like, we talk about the theme of like man versus nature, but it especially with the mayor character, which they get into later on. Like it's kind of a thing of keeping the beach open for like tourism and attraction, rather than like
I was just gonna bounce on that about the mayor. He's kind of like the human villain, because he's always like, oh, I want to, like, the show must go on. We depend on the tourists to make our money, which it is set in a small town. It's a fictional town, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah. I Yes, they filmed on Martha's Vineyard. Sorry, I have like vineyard. Martha's Vineyard. And actually, you might have to fact check me once again. I feel like I know so many things, but my brain's everywhere. But um a lot of the like extras in the film are people from the island. So they got like a bunch. I think the kid, which spoilers, the kid that dies on the yellow like balloon, not balloon, like floaty. Yeah, there we go. Him, he is like a local kid, I'm pretty sure. And I saw a documentary. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a lot of people who were like sneaking in onto set. Like kids would sneak in. There was this one specific kid who was like sneaking in. I have to double check this, but he like snuck into the set where they were filming the beach because it wasn't like really that protected, and it wasn't known like what it was gonna be that well. So he thought he was just gonna be in like a cool movie and like, oh, like I had my one like second of fame. But little does he know that film will go on to be like a pop culture phenomenon. So that's kind of crazy. And then he went on to speak about it on this documentary that I'm pretty sure is out there. He picked a good one to like surprise party everyone.
yeah.
A good place to trespass for sure. If he had known what he was doing, oh my god, amazing. So after the mayor is like, no, just go watch the people because it's about to be like the spring break rush or the summer rush or whatever. The 4th of July, so it's summer, yeah, 4th of July rush, and we have this iconic get out of the water scene where he sees the shark because all the people are on the beach, and has this. I looked it up. It's called a dolly zoom. Iconic. I think it also is used in Guardians of the Galaxy, the sequel. It's a scene where I don't know if this is a deep cut for anyone, but this is the scene where Peter has it's revealed that his mother's cancer was intentional by his dad. There is a dolly zoom, and it's like it's used. So I love that it's something that I don't see a lot of because that makes it just so much more potent. And it's such a good scene because it really feels like treacherous. It feels dangerous.
Because that's basically like, I don't know. The camera work in the movie is actually really, I think, influential. Like even today, like these a lot of techniques. I don't even know if they were pioneered before then, but I mean, they have the dolly zoom. They have a lot of like tracking shots in there. Even like the POV shots, which I don't think I've seen a lot of even before this movie. So it set the standard of like how to make a type of creature film that's entertaining and like visually interesting.
Going on to that, a lot of the ocean scenes they actually did go out to sea to film them. So like that's a lot of equipment to kind of take on a boat in the middle of nowhere or like in the middle of the ocean. So it's kind of crazy to think like how risky of a movie it could be because it was adapted from a novel of the same name. And I don't know if you researched it, but I'm pretty sure that like some of the plot lines are kind of different from it. Did you get a chance to look at it or?
Oh, sorry. I didn't really look into the book as much. I was really focused on like the movie itself. I was aware that there was a book, but I didn't feel the need to like compare and contrast it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's just like it's interesting to see like how I'm not sure how well the book did, but it's kind of risky taking like a novel because I mean now, yeah, like taking a novel to film, you know that it's gonna do well because it already has like the fandom behind it. But I'm not sure what it was like back then, but I'm sure it's kind of like a gamble in the early stages of like making cinema because you would want your stories to be original. And I think maybe adapting a novel maybe wasn't the strongest suitor, and you definitely wouldn't think it would be a blockbuster, but it was, and it did really well. So that kind of just adds on to like, sorry,
No, you're good. I think I wanted to add on to your point. It was interesting because I'm thinking about how we have attitudes today towards that. Like, you want it to, because adaptation, I think we were talking about in a class, adaptation is really risky because of how many ways it can go wrong. But I feel like at least back then there was less of it. And if it's a novel, if the novel was anything like the movie and it was like action based, I think an audience like in the 70s and the 80s would be like, yeah, I want to see that visually. Like, because you imagine it, but you want someone to bring it to life. So I think for the time period, it makes sense. But if it tried to do the same thing today, I think people would have a lot more criticisms of it because there's a lot less original stuff now. At least, like, in Hollywood especially. Like, the stuff that gets greenlit is adaptations, is reboots, is shit we've already seen before. So
We play it safe. I know, we play it safe now. I don't know, I kind of want those adaptations, like, that challenge, like, what kind of films are coming out now, like, especially for, like, relatively, like, unknown stories. I feel like that's where your classics, your blockbusters come from, is when you can pull, like, source material that not a lot of people are aware of. And I think now, I don't know, it's kind of going off a tangent on, like, the industry now, but it's a lot
that's
of
the name of the game, baby.
It's I don't know, it's like nothing's new.
Well, I don't know. There's like a lot of interesting stories being told now. Like now that we're in the age of like kind of being more diverse, there's a lot of like I guess stories that were like never really mainstream are being told now, and that's kind of like the new thing now. Like I don't know. It's complicated. The industry's ever growing, and then we also have the idea of streaming being bigger than like traditional, like going to like cable or even like films even like debuting in a premiere or something now. And in the age of COVID too, had to bring in the COVID conversation. Yeah, like streaming has definitely done a lot in the cinema like industry. And even like we went to a talk, Andrew and we went to a talk where it was this professor talked about how Latin films are doing in the United States and how they perform like outside of the United States and how it's very different, and how like films produced in Hollywood do like really well here, and then they also do well like for example in Mexico, and they have like such a very different dynamic for like I guess like films that are made in Mexico. People in Mexico don't really want to see them. So it's kind of like that dynamic where it's like, why do we put Hollywood on such a high scale? But at the same time, like Hollywood is low-key getting taken down with the age of streaming. And where I was going with that is that Amazon Prime recently bought MGM Studios. So that's like a really big studio going down. Well, not down, but going with the streaming. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy to think about. This is kind of off topic of Jaws, but Universal
Jaws sparks all kinds of conversations, and I think that's why it's such a big thing. It's an important historical landmark in film history, and that's why it sparks so many conversations. And the last thing I'm going to say about this particular topic before we have to move on to the actual plot is that it's interesting that Hollywood is in a really like interesting phase of like both cannibalizing itself and having the most diverse like set that it's ever had before. Because I actually learned in marketing class. Yeah, because okay, another tangent. The concept of cannibalization in terms of business and industry and marketing is when something like, let's say we have like a Starbucks and they want to have a Starbucks in a like a mall, or they want to have it like on a specific street corner. Cannibalization is the process of it like having multiple Starbucks in like very close proximity to each other, and it's like taking business away from itself. So like it's not productive. You would think having more brick and mortar spots would be more productive or like more profitable, but in reality it's just taking money away because you have to upkeep those same stores, but you're not getting more business. So it's actually taking profit away from your business. Tangent over. I'm trying to get a marketing minor, and this stuff is actually really interesting, so let me tangent over. Let's move on. We covered the get out of the water scene. I wrote Alex Kittner is a fucking bummer because, you know, bad stuff happening to kids is always a bummer in horror movies.
The dog is killed. I mean, the kid too, he's killed, but the dog. No.
Good riddance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't, and I feel like Andrew, you hecka overlooked the dog dying
I
because
think I honestly think I missed it. I think I was falling asleep. But we were watching at like maybe like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I think I might have like
I don't
I
know,
don't know.
but the scene is like it's very like we never see a dog die. Well, we don't see the dog get actually killed because at the time I'm sure animals and their rights weren't established fully. But there's the hint of the guy throwing the stick and the dog coming back, and then he throws the stick and the dog goes out. Cuts if we see a few different scenes, people kind of running everywhere. Yes, he died because no, it doesn't show the dog die.
Oh.
But it shows like the stick still floating and he's calling out looking for his dog. So that's like so It's like adding on to the like adding salt to the wound where it's like you don't really like see what's going on, but like you feel it emotionally because you're like, where is his dog? You're feeling it with that character who is unnamed, but R.I.P. the dog and the kid.
For sure. I think it was that point I started to actually get invested in stuff because I was thinking of my dog and thinking of like if you like didn't come back from the water. Oh my god, my dog is like 10 pounds soaking wet and he wouldn't go in the water in any circumstances willingly, but like you get the feeling. I wrote here, I wonder if Jordan Peele took inspiration for the sound design for Nope from Jaws. Because remember, if you've watched Nope, the scenes where the screams of the people inside the alien creature, it's intercut roller coaster screams and terrified screams. And when it's cut together, it creates this really neat effect. So I was wondering if, like, there's some audio stuff in that scene where it's like the people are screaming in delight because they're at the beach, but also, shit, shark attack. Now there's screams of terror. So I was wondering if there was any like inspiration overlap with that. Can neither confirm nor deny. It was just an interesting thought.
We'll never know. That is an
That is a
interesting
pretty cool
thought.
point,
I've
though.
never really looked at it that way.
Funny.
When you kind of look at Nope and how I didn't know that it was roller coaster screams and like terrified screams. That's interesting. I guess like looking back at it, there is kind of like they sound kind of happy, but at the same time like something's off putting a bit. I don't know. I might have to rewatch that scene, but there is that chaotic vibe and visually shown, and then like also that audio that you hear because there's a lot going on. Like we are at a beach. There's kids having fun, families like being out there, kids like screaming, people in the water. I was gonna say the pool, in the water, and then there's like conversations going in and out, and you kind of get that point of view, like going back to the dolly zoom, right? That's what it was called. Where it kind of gets quiet when you see that scene with Chief Brody because you can kind of not hear him, but see him like tone out everything, and he's like very much like in his world, and he's like, I need to protect these people, and nothing else is like gonna get through me, basically.
I think like what's interesting is that the film focuses on a lot of characters. There's a lot of characters in the film, but it feels like it's from the point of view of Chief Brody in a way. Because like you were mentioning, like with the chaos of like the whole film, it's like edited in the same way to kind of make the audience feel kind of sympathetic to how he's feeling about the water, and they're kind of feeling that fear because they don't even know what's in it themselves because they haven't even seen the shark yet. Of course, now I mean rewatching it, we know it's a shark, we know what it looks like, but rewatching it for like the first time, I think that stood out to me and how they edited it.
We move on from that. I also wrote down like I have kids in my house, so the instinctual alertness for loud shouts, happy or not, it's alarm bells. That is also true, ironically enough, when it's quiet. So just don't have kids, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's constant alertness. Iconic scene with introducing the shark hunter. Okay, with the shark hunter Quint is his name. And it happens during the meeting that the council, like the town council's happening about, like, okay, there's just been shark attack that we all saw, and they're trying to decide what to do. And Quint introduces himself with the nails on the chalkboard, which is I feel like I've seen that. Part of what I love about this movie is that I could trace back tropes or like iconic visuals back to this movie because I've seen it so much in other movies. So that was like, oh my god, I've definitely seen that one before. And Quint is a character. He is the most character.
He is a very interesting character, but I don't know. I was like, Actually, I don't know. Should we spoil what happened? No. Should
Well,
we
yeah,
wait?
we already spoiled
All right. Yeah. I was actually like heartbroken that he died. He was my favorite character, I think. He was just like very they added like a human side to him. He's kind of like stereotypical like badass like hunter dude, you know what I mean? But I don't know, like they explained like his backstory of how he was in like the war and he was in like a boat and the reason why he like hunts down these sharks is because they got shot down and then all his crew got taken down by some like tiger sharks and all that shit. I was like, dang. I don't know. It's like tragic, but I like this character.
Interesting too. His character is actually introduced very on, like early on in the film, and we don't see him again until like maybe 40 minutes after that, which is wild that they would do that. Cause I mean, you would think he was kind of like a throwaway character maybe when you first see him, cause you're like, okay, like cool, you kill sharks. And then they move on from it. And he, like, Chief Brody tries to, like, do his thing. And, like, he tries to do everything he can on land to stop these shark attacks. But, boy, you need to go to the water. You need to go into the water. And he does. But, he doesn't go into the water until Quint comes back. So I think that was, like, Quint. Yeah, until he comes back. And, that's it. I don't know. It's just interesting how they set. Because it's almost like that, no, not the hero's journey, but the one where it's like a film will showcase you like a weapon, and there we go. I always
What is it
Chekhov's
Chekhov's
gun. Okay,
That's what it's called.
I always refer to this idea, but I never know what it's called. And I say the Lisa thing. Lisa's our professor. Or I say the gun because I remember it being the gun, or sometimes I even refer to it as a sword. So, but yes, it's kind of like that idea where he's like introduced and you're like, oh, okay, like maybe we'll see him. And yeah, definitely. And when he's like introduced, when we first like see him, it's a close up of his hand on the chalkboard. So that's like interesting that they took it that route instead of just showing like a whole wide shot of him kind of like. But it like it showcases his character a little bit more, and like you see like how intense he is just from that like close up. I don't know, something about a close up will just like make you seem very like intimidating, and he's a man of little words in that first scene. So interesting. Little thought bubble for you guys.
I really love the way that he was introduced because, like you said, it was the hand first. It's also funny because he's a sailor first and foremost, and the stereotype with sailors is that they're like super macho, like hyper masculine, and I'm like, this bitch is a theater. He's a theater nerd. No one makes an entrance like that without doing theater. So there's no way. That's just the vibe that I get from him. But also, like you were saying, Chekhov's gun specifically, the law is like if you show a gun, if it's mostly books that it's described in, but it was adapted for film. But if you are in a book and if you take the time to describe a gun in Act 1, it's got to go off in Act 3. And that's literally what happens. Because if we're referring to Quint as the gun, he's introduced in Act 1. We don't see him for an hour, which is basically all of Act 2. And then he comes back in Act 3 and he kicks off the climax. So that's literally the entire, perfect. He is a prop. I'm going to hear about this later. But I lost my train of thought. Oh, Quint. The last thing I want to say about Quint is that he is so fucking weird because he gets real. Have you seen The Lighthouse, or the black and white film Lighthouse? Yeah, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. He gets real lighthousey at the end. He gets real Quint. I was watching him descend into madness, and I was like, "This is exactly like the Lighthouse. If you put this in black and white, this could be The Lighthouse, but on a boat." It was I was really scared for the other people there. Because he was losing his, I know we're jumping around a lot in the plot, but he was losing his goddamn mind. In the end, yeah. On the boat, because I might have also been he was getting exposure, exposed. So
because he's a fraud.
I think I have something to share. So you know how earlier we were talking about capitalism and how the mayor was really greedy about I want my money for my town, but in reality I want it for me. Basically, yeah, like we can put that same idea into Quint's character because he was like, I'm gonna kill this shark for $10,000. And that's just kind of interesting to think how he's like, I don't know, he's not greedy, but he does kind of get like a little crazy in the mind when he sees that this shark is kind of like a tougher beast than him, and so there's that like greed of like trying to like get him, like trying to get him, and like trying to like, of course he wants his bag respectfully, so no, I don't think he died on purpose. I think yeah, exactly.
If he didn't die, Brody would have killed the. Sorry. If Quint did not die, Brody would not have killed that shark because I don't know. Maybe he did. But maybe
No,
he,
but
did it on purpose.
I just
don't
think
know.
like Quint's character, like in a way he's also kind of greedy, but like maybe in a different way than like monetary value, although there is that aspect in it for him. There's just like he kind of got greedy with the idea of like him being able to tell this story and being like super like powerful. Macho man.
Macho man. I think you're right about that. I think you're both right in a way because I've heard this concept of, the 7 deadly sins. They're all just different forms of greed. And I think his form of greed is pride. I think he's very, like, enraptured with the prideful version of himself. And he wants that image of him, like, not necessarily, not the hero, but, like, the toughest guy in the room. For sure. Yeah. And
They even reinforce that theme with the scar scene when they're in the boat and they're all comparing like, oh, I got this when I was fighting a shark. Oh, I got a shark tooth in here. Oh, test tube went up my butt. But some like crazy stuff. But I think a lot of the movie deals with being masculine in a way because even Brody, you would think that he's the man. He's got to go take down. He's a police officer, but he's actually scared and he can't swim and he's actually scared of the shark and of everybody. So I don't know. There's a lot of theming in this movie, but I think masculinity is a big one.
yeah, I thought the thematic parallels between Brody and Quint dealing with gender identity was very interesting because they approach it in similar ways, but they have different outcomes. Because I think it also deals a lot with trauma and how that interacts with gender identity, specifically maleness. And they have similar traumas, with the water and with sharks. And one is able to overcome it and the other one isn't, and that's why one dies and one doesn't. And I think one thing that you were saying that he died on purpose, I don't think he meant to die, but I think it's a similar concept with, like, in society the concept of male identity is like you will do this to like help your image even if it kills you. So in that way, this self-destructive kind of like mindset, in a way he was doing it on purpose, but in a like less direct way.
I feel like if Quint also didn't die, it would have been like, I feel like he would never live that down. Like if like for example like Chief Rhodey does kill him and Quint lives, I feel like a piece of him would die, and I think he would have more honor in dying because he knew that he like died trying, than like not die and like kind of try but like he didn't do it, so that kind of adds to like his tough persona, and he's like, oh well, at least I like took the shark tooth for it, so he took the bite.
I for sure agree. If he lived, he would have been like, I wish I died. Because not being the person to kill it, I think, would have affected him much more. Which, again, goes into what I was saying. It's like, I would rather self-destruct than take care of myself because that's not seen as manly. Which, just for clarification, just a disclaimer, I'm not saying all men have this mindset. I'm saying society pushed gender norms onto men, and it hurts. The patriarchy hurts everyone, okay? That's what I'm saying. Death to the patriarchy, okay? Don't come at me with your bullshit. I know what I'm talking about.
Patriarchal. Ah, fuck. Jaw's good.
Jaw's good. Okay, let's move on from. We're not gonna get through the whole movie. Matt Hooper?
We haven't talked about him yet.
Who's Hooper?
The scientist.
He's hot. Bill. Okay, so if Hooper, Brody, and what's the wife's name? Ellen. Oh, yeah, I definitely wrote it. Yes. Yes. Martin. He's not as compelling as the other two, I'm sorry. Chief Brody. Martin is his first name. His son is Lucas. I wrote it down. One is George and one is Thruple dinner. If I was gonna say if Martin Brody, Ellen Brody, and Matt Hooper could become a polycule, that would solve all my problems. Yes, if they could become a thruple, that'd be great.
Wait, what is a
fuck is a
polycule?
polycule?
Oh, this is our queer word of the week. This is fun. I am of the LGBT community, and my friends are very much not. So it's fun.
But we're
Allies.
allies.
Say something, ally.
Ally.
So I have fun little moments where I get to teach them all these terms. So a throuple, which is the more colloquial term, or a polycule, which is the more technical term. A polycule is simply a romantic relationship between more than two people. Yeah. So if they could just get up and do it, that'd be great for me specifically.
But there's the dinner scene, all the tension that's present. Because they're getting dinner at his house, Chief Brody's house. Yeah, they're like drinking wine. You don't remember this scene?
No,
Oh
I
my
didn't
gosh.
look back at that one. Maybe. I don't think so. I was just disassociated.
Unless it was part of like an extended cut, because there is actually an additional scene for where they're drinking, the lighthouse scene that you're no, not the lighthouse scene, but where they're drinking and sharing their scars. There's an extended cut to that I think wasn't theatrically released, or maybe it was, and then when it released like it's either one way or the other. One, it like was released on one platform and then it wasn't on the other. And so when it was aired sometimes, and this is kind of funny because this is taking me back to like years ago when I like was watching this film as a child. I remember certain scenes and I'd be like, where is that scene where they're like speaking for a long, long time? And it's kind of like irrelevant, but it adds a little more to their character, and you kind of, I don't know. I remember when I first watched that scene and I knew that, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so different from like how. No, I'm not too sure. I honestly can't remember what I watched first, but I remember I've seen the movie a bunch of times. Like I said, it's my favorite film. But fun fact, I actually have a little Jaws Loungefly wallet, so that just tells you how much I love. Shout out. They actually sponsored this episode. No, for real. But I love Jaws, and when I was watching it as a child, I just remember like a very particular scenes that I was like, I've never seen this before. Or maybe I just like also never processed it as like now I do, because now I'm like a film like scholar, yeah. So I'm like, okay, like give me. we actually have seen Pulp Fiction. Fairly recently, yeah. I thought I'd seen it a lot of years ago, but there's a lot of scenes that I did not remember, so I don't think I've ever really seen it. I think I've seen bits of it, but never the full entirety of Pulp Fiction. It's kind of crazy. That's a whole nother episode. But I forgot what I was saying. I know I was talking about my Loungefly. The secret scene. So, like, rewatching, or, like, when I first watched that scene, knowing that scene was a secret, I was like, oh, wow, like, I've never, like, really thought about it this way. Or I'm pretty sure it's the scene where they're drinking, the beer, or whatever they're drinking, taking shots, whatever, yeah, alcohol. And, and I think Chief Brody kind of, like, he adds a little bit more about his character, and we also learn about him a little more compared to, like, where you're putting pieces together in the film, because I don't think, and you didn't pick this up originally, I believe, you being Andrew, I don't think he picked up on the fact that Chief Brody was afraid of water, or like afraid of the ocean. Okay, I think that's, I don't know, maybe just because I've seen it, I'm like, oh my god, he's afraid of water. Interesting.
I thought he was just plotting. I thought he was plotting to shoot up that goddamn shark.
No, but he's afraid of water, and he's actually an outsider for the community. So it's kind of interesting to see like very like subtle hints to that. And actually, when we were talking about Quint's entrance in the scene, when you see Chief Brody, there's a table where like the mayor is sitting at and like other officials of the town, and you would think like Chief Brody would be in that little circle or like seating area, but he is actually seen standing away from that. So like if you rewatch the movie, he's an outsider in that thing, but also like metaphorically he's an outsider. So and then he doesn't sit down until the mayor tells him to sit down. So it also adds into like his like he might have like his own personal like rules that he follows, but like and at least for the first half he'll do whatever the mayor says because he doesn't have that type of authority or confidence in himself. I definitely do I definitely do think he develops it. It's just kind of like I don't know. You see that subtle like reach of him. Like I think also as the film progresses, you realize that he's like something's wrong with him not liking the water because like he also the scene where he's like with the kid. He's like running to like get people, but he never actually like runs into the water. He kind of stays at bay. He's at the shoreline, like kind of minding his own business. So I do think he like combats it, especially at the ending film where or not ending film, but the ending shot where he's like he's like die.
It's like shooting from the little.
Yeah, and then he like falls into the water and he's like, well, so much for I think he says something like quirky where he's like so much for the water. Did you get that ending line?
I actually, I relate so much to Chief Brody. I cannot swim to save my life, or to save the life of me, to be honest. So he's great. What does it say? Oh, the next note it says, "Goddamn Quint put his whole quintussy into his death." It's actually he's honestly 8, but then he got eaten.
Literally.
Yeah. There's another what were we saying? What was that? Something's gun? Whose gun? Who the fuck's gun is it? Chekhov's gun. There's another Chekhov's gun in the final scene with the air tanks that they talk about.
Yeah. That brings me. I want to start talking about Hooper because I was thinking like, no, he's another bitchular character, and he is the scientist character because all action movies need to have. It's like the asteroid's gonna hit Earth. You need to have the Milo Thatch of the. The Milo Thatch of the whole experience, which, by the way, he looked so much like Milo Thatch upon first viewing, I immediately developed a crush on him. He is an animated character from the cult classic Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Yes. 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 I want him. Atlantis. Yes. Which was inspired by Jaws, yes. Honestly, it could have been. So many things are inspired by Jaws indirectly because so many other things are inspired by Jaws, and then you're inspired by those other things. So, branch.
Oh my gosh. This is so random, but Community, the TV show, had Donald Glover where he like did Spider-Man. He did something Spider-Man costume, but it was like a reference to something in the past where this guy also dressed up as Spider-Man. And then people were throwing like the butterfly effect. That's what it was. And how it was like this small like basically like joke. Yeah, he created Miles Morales in the end of it, which was crazy. And then he has a little cameo in the MCU universe where he's like the Prowler. There we go. And then there's talks of him. Actually, he was in the Spider-Verse one too. So there's talks of him getting his own thing, but only time will tell.
How did that relate to Jaws?
Because we were talking I don't know. It just like related somehow.
Yeah, we were talking about how Jaws inspired so many things, and then that by proxy inspires so many other things. Sort of like the branching timelines effect. It branches out into everything. The multiverse of Jaws.
Actually, Jaws, the film genre, like really, the film genre Jaws or no, Jaws as a film genre? No, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know, but basically what I was trying to say is that Sharknado and like those ideas of like like shark attack movies came from Jaws because they realized like
Creature films.
yes, creature films. There we go. Like just like alligator, also like the alligator ones. Like there's like like Meg is like yes the anaconda one. There we go. Like those are like the creature animal films. Well, the birds is made
Jaws is
beforehand.
Inspired by the birds.
Maybe.
How do we make a movie about birds before we made one about goddamn killer sharks?
We're taking this rabbit hole all the way down.
But There's that idea of like how Jaws inspired, like going back to like how it's been referencing a lot of things like Sharknado and that fear of like nature versus man, and how it made it like a prominent genre and or like subgenre in the industry. And I forgot what I was gonna say, but I'll probably come back to it.
Jaws good.
Yeah, we'll probably come back to it. So back to Matt Hooper. He
That was a long.
back to Matt Hooper. When he was introduced, he looked like Milo Thatch. Got a crush on him immediately. But then I was like, I have the note actually. Where is it? Yeah, I have like 4 pages of notes. Where did he get introduced? We're skipping over the. Yes. Yeah, he said that he needed to call someone from the National Geographic to come see, like, where is this shark? That is what he says. That he specifically says National Geographic.
Sir, call PBS Kids.
Oh wait, no, wait, real quick. There's a bounty kind of put on the head of the shark, and that's why a bunch of people go out. And there's this 2 people on the dock who tries to like fling like chum out in the water, and then my note says Brucey yoinks the fucking dock and snatches one of the fishermen. I wasn't even invested, but the desperation in the acting makes you feel for him. Can we go home now?
I think one of those actors was also a local, if I'm not wrong. Maybe that's why he was also just kind of like the acting was not there.
There's a lot of local actors on this film, I'm noticing, which is kind of cool because like it's such a big film now, and it was like so low budget. Don't you think so?
It was fairly low budget. It also went way like originally the film was supposed to get released in this winter, but then boom, summer baby, because they took too long on filming it because Bruce would not work. So, but honestly, a blessing in disguise because Jaws ended up being the first summer blockbuster of the world. I was gonna say the years, but so just kind of crazy to think how like maybe at the time they would have thought like, oh, our budget's so ass, but little did they know that budget was just the killer. Yeah, exactly.
Killer.
So interesting.
I found the note. It says the first one of the first lines he says in regards to like some of the sailors are mocking him, and he goes, "Haha, they're all gonna die." I fell in love that minute because I wrote he's Milo Thatch if he had an ego. For the Atlantis girlies, you know what I'm talking about.
Matt Hooper is so confident. Like he's his own being. Honestly, he's like out of this planet. Like he comes in, like he owns the place. Dude doesn't even care. He's like, Mayor, you gotta do this, this, and this. And the mayor's like, hee. And he's like, you guys are idiots. And he like, I think he proceeds to like want to leave, but I think he makes a line actually too where he calls Chief Brody the only man with brains in this town, or like something along the line. So it's just kind of funny when you think like how this science man, who normally in films, I mean, I guess he's also like never listened, but he kind of like he has one supporter and that's Chief Brody, and he's the main character. So it's kind of like that interesting like dynamic between the two, because like the science man has more power over the authority figure. Yeah, so not masculine, but like the authority figure in this town, even though like he doesn't, like Chief Brody doesn't view himself as an authority.
Were the actors in Jaws, did they like get famous? Like were they in any other film? Like I don't recognize them from anything.
Brody and I think Quint were already famous. I think the one that was surprising is Rufus. I think his name's Rufus. No, like his real name.
Oh, Matt Hooper.
It's like No, yeah. Matt Hooper. I think it's like Rufus Differus or something like that. It's something like funky. But I think
Cypress.
unless no, because Chief Brody was like his character is already like, or the actor that plays him was already pretty big. I don't know what other films he's been in. Also, Ellen was, I don't know if you researched this. I think I might have told you this when I was.
Richard Dreyfuss.
What did I call him?
You called him Niflis Syphilis.
Liviosa. Richard. Okay. Anyways, Ellen's character. No, none of the original cast comes back to do the. Not even Steven. Not even Steven. Steven and the whole cast felt that they actually kill off Brody's character. He dies.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I didn't know Chief Brody died in Jaws 2. All right, next podcast is on my Jaws 2. God damn it.
And that's wild too because the entire Jaw franchise is still following the Brody family, but the main bitch is dead. How's that gonna work? Wait, I cared about the film because Chief Brody overcame his fear of the water and overcome his trauma, and now we're just following someone else?
And by the third entry, I believe it's the third one, Ellen is the main character. She gets her own film. And actually, before we went on to like the other ones, I'm pretty sure Ellen is like she was not an actor before this. I don't know if you gotta look that up.
I did do some research for this. I think Ellen was... I might be thinking of a different movie and I might be wrong. But Ellen Brody, the actress who played her, she was actually like the wife of some higher up executive. And she was given the role because she just wanted to be in the movie. So she wasn't an actor beforehand. She just wanted to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And he hated her, right?
Yeah, he didn't like it.
Yeah.
I believe so.
That's why there's so little scenes of her in the film. But I think she did okay. Like, she's not bad. I mean, she's kind of like... I don't know. She sticks out like a sore thumb. But I think that's just like... It makes sense with this, like, the town vibes, because, like, the mayor is also kind of, like, he's wonky. He's kind of, like, I don't know. He's kind of, like, ignorant about a lot of things, and I feel like so is Ellen, because she's always telling, like, the Brody's character to, like, chill, and he's like, you're in charge, you're the man, like, you got this. And at the same time, like, she doesn't really let him, like, control the kids. Like, with, like, the boat scene, for example, I think that one's so funny. Because Brody's at first, he's like, oh no, like they're in the boat, get them off the boat. Because he's looking at the book, right? And then Ellen's like, he's on the shoreline, like nothing's going to happen to him. And then he's like, okay, if you say so. Going back to like his authority kind of being like on the waters. See what I did there? But Ellen, like, I think Chief Brody leaves and the book is open and she looks at the picture and we get like a visual shot of the shark biting through the boat. And then she's like, oh shit. And then she's like, I don't know what his kid's name is. Get off of that damn boat. Didn't you hear your dad?
I think it's George and Mikey. I went down the line. I think it's George and Mikey.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ellen had just enough screen time for me to fall in love with her. So I think she's great, and I think she's perfect. And I wrote down several lines of hers, like, I think, not her opening scene, but it was, like, one of the first one. I think it was right before the boat scene that you were talking about. They were drinking, and she, like, laid back, and she was, like, want to get drunk and fool around. And I was like, queen shit. Because you would never, especially back then, what female character would you find saying some shit like that? That's like, she was a baddie in her she's very like city mouse in a country place, which was like, oh my god, it was so good.
Like, quirky, like for a town girl. Like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, something about her character is so interesting. I also really liked her hair. Her hair was so pretty. Like her, and there was this one scene where she has a scarf over her head. I don't know. I just thought like fashion wise, she was bringing it to the table.
I don't think I noticed. I mean, I saw her most of the movie, but I guess I just didn't pay attention to her that much. Maybe I was
The
on
male
the party.
gaze.
The male gaze. The female gaze is Ellen Martin and Matt Hooper all in a room together eating dinner. The male gaze is just Quint. Let's talk about Matt Hooper. God damn it. I want the specific. Okay, let's take a breath. The specific thing about Matt Hooper that I thought of was his specific relationship to masculinity. Because we're going to talk about Quint and how Chief Brody expressed their masculinity. And it's very interesting that we have a third perspective in Matt Hooper. Matt Hooper is different from both of them because while they they show their masculinity through like their physical prowess or their capabilities like protecting people, he places his masculinity and worth in his intellect. So it's a different type. He clearly has some sort of superiority feeling over other people because everyone else is like very blue collar and very like on the ground running work, like that kind of vibe. So he has this sense of superiority, but he still can't escape from the patriarchy and how it's affecting his mind, because when he's forced to reconcile with the fact that he can't do the things that Quint does, he's like, okay, whatever, I still am smarter than you. Like, it's the same. He thinks he's different, but he's not. He's just like other girls. that's that is a separate thing that I think of constantly, which, like, if you know about, like, I'm not like other girls mindset, dudes do that too. They do it all the time. Yeah. They're like, I'm not like other men. You're exactly like other men. I promise you. He thinks he's not like other men because he's smart and he's going into this problem. He's hot, but he's going into this problem with a different, like, approach, but the same mindset, because he still thinks he's superior to everyone around him, and that's like every single other man. Every man has that audacity.
There's this point that we were watching the movie that Jalissa was like, the shark kind of represents like different things to each character. Like for Matt, it represents like science. He sees like research within the shark. Like even when it's attacking, he's like, oh, let me get a picture of the fucking fin or whatever. You know.
And this guy's trying, like, going back to Quint, like, he's trying to kill this shark with every, like, might he can. And Hooper's character, he's trying to get research on this shark every time he can. Like, you see him risk his life. Well, not his life, but his, like, leg gets stuck behind the rope because he gets stuck between putting the tracker on or something. Something happens with that tracker, and he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Dude could have lost a limb out there. And he's, like, super focused on getting, like, research on this damn shark, because he's like, wow, this is a beauty. This is a beast.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there's the other two is like Quint. He like sees like money and like bounty for the shark, and then for Brody, he sees fear. So you have selfishness, fear, and science. What does that mean?
It parallels how audiences take the film, because even now people are analyzing it and everyone comes away with a different meaning. So I love that that is also seen within the characters, like, in the universe, because I think if we're going off, like, the gender read, it represents masculinity, or maybe it represents the patriarchy. And since we have these three different forms of masculinity and their relationship to it, it is very telling which one actually wins. One is focused on proving their superiority through their intellect, the other through physical prowess and, like, pride, and the one that actually focuses on getting the job done is the actual one that gets the job done. Like, he's the only one who succeeds because he every angle, and he's the only one who actually succeeds because he understands what's important, which is doing his job, keeping people safe. That's the bottom line. We're almost to an hour, and in true fashion of Jaws, we've spoken 10% about the shark. He's only in it for 10%, so, you know.
Yeah, it's very, very, very little screen time.
I was gonna say something about Hooper, sorry, before I move on. His character too, we kind of see him, I think you mentioned earlier, like, that pride. There's, like, I don't know, the way he's introduced to, he comes on, like, no one's listening to him. Not even the people are, like, on the boat that they're overfloating, because Chief Brody is like, oh, you gotta get them off the boat. Come on, you tell them. And he tries to get them off the boat. This guy's the one with the degree, and he is unable to get grown-ass men off a boat. And a dog. So, like, it's just kind of, like, crazy to kind of add that into, like, the fact that he's the man with the degree and no one listens to him. Yeah, Hooper. He's the one with the science degree, and no one listened to him. No one pays attention to him.
But for good reason. He had that shark cage idea, and it did nothing. What did it do?
He underestimated the shark, though, respectfully.
Hoopa just good looks.
Hoopa is just a pretty face with big brain, no head.
So no head.
I don't know where I was going with.
I think it tracks. We're losing oxygen in here. It's a tiny room. The last thing I thought was really interesting about Hooper, one of his scenes was when all of the people who are out trying to trying to get the shark, and they come back on the shore with a shark, but it is a tiny ass shark. It's a tiger shark. I wrote down, it's like, oh, poor tiger shark, because tiger sharks are actually pretty docile. No, that is not. No, you might have to fact check that, sir. Who?
I swear to God. Okay. Sorry. So the idea is that Quint got attacked by a tiger shark when he was in, I don't know what army was fighting him, but their ship got blown down. They were like, "Oh shit."
Quint?
Yeah. Was it during? When did he get attacked during?
Wait.
What kind of shark did he get attacked
We're finding out right now. We're on Jaws wiki fandom. Dun 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 dun. Oh, Orca's the name of the boat. Like my. Oh, because he says he has a tooth from it, right? Doesn't he have
by?
a tooth?
Remember, he's like, yeah, right there. The Annapolis. He's during Pearl Harbor, right?
But that has nothing to do with the
No, but like, remember the sharks? Was it during Pearl Harbor? Fact check that. The Indianapolis, the one that got attacked. But he like talks about like hearing people scream and like they were getting attacked by tiger
being
sharks.
in a war.
Inconclusive. I can neither confirm nor deny. But what were we talking about before that? Shit. Oh, no. Okay, so the scene where they bring a tiger shark and they like killed it and they brought it and Hooper was like measuring his mouth to be like, bitch, the bite on that girl that was attacked by the actual shark does not match this jaw. So you got the wrong shark. And they're all like, boo. Like he's raining on their parade when like, but there is an actual shark out there. So it's just another example of like, I think more of the, yes, more of him not being listened to, but also kind of going with the read of like capitalism and greed on the movie and instead of gender, because even though it's like the most obvious answer, it's like A does not equal B. They're still like, for the sake of our town and its economy, we're willing to risk lives because if there's even a doubt that there's a man-eating shark in the water, then and you still let people come, you're not a good person.
It's like the line where the mayor says, he's like, if you yell barracuda, people like freak out, but if you yell shark attack, then we got something in the water. Or I don't know, he says something along those lines. And I think it's always so funny because he says something about like, if you yell barracuda, you got something something, and then if you yell shark attack, you got a midlife crisis on the 4th of July. He says something along those lines, I think. The mayor. When he's on the ferry that travels the boat, not the boats, the cars, yeah. And Chief Brody's like getting ready to like go tell like these canoeer people. Yeah, this is in the beginning, by the way. And he's like, oh my, like take me to those people. I need to tell them to get out of the water. And then the mayor like gets a wisp of what's going on, and he's like, stop telling people that there's a shark because we got to make money.
He leans in way too close. He's like, I don't think you understand the situation, like that kind of shit. And I think the notes that I'm looking at are very relevant. It's the boat Ben Gardner scene. Refilmed in a this is just a cool tidbit. The Ben Gardner death scene was refilmed in a pool to get a better reaction, because when it was first premiered with the test audience, the audience didn't get a big of a reaction from the audience as he wanted from that scene, so they reshot. Ben Gardner is one of the sailors that are like trying to get the shark, but he gets chomped and his body getting revealed. That scene, it was refilmed in a pool to get a better shot. So that's just a fun tidbit, not related to what else.
Yeah, film it. Sometimes I don't know. Film it on sets. It's more worth it.
Going back to that scene, that's the scariest scene for me. Sometimes I even forget that that scene's in there because you get it's the one with the head, right? Okay. Yeah. You're chill, nothing happens. And the movie had already associated noise with the sensation of fear. So you're like pretty chill. And then boom, it's like, ee! And then it's like the head and he's like floating down. And like, I always jump respectfully. It always gets me. Even though I've seen this film, I always go like, ooh. It got me again.
Yeah, there's something about like specifically like water bloated corpses that are very like it was so weird.
He's also like off, like yeah, he's discolored. I don't know.
He just didn't look
Dead
like a
white man.
human.
Dead white man jump scare. No, that's what happened when bodies do that anyway naturally because okay, this is also one of my interests used to be post-mortem like I was in a real deep rabbit hole at one point. So something that happens with corpses, they bloat up naturally because the gases in them are that's just what they do, but it doubles when they're in water because their body bloats up with the water. So and it discolors their skin because obviously they also poop, yeah, and fart. They all the tension is released when you're dead, so it kind of just they don't show that in movies. Yes, it's the most deadliest fart. Yes. What was I talking about? So the capitalism. The scene after that where they discover Ben Gardner's body and the next morning they go to the mayor and is like, listen, bitch dead. We have to get all of these people out of here. And the mayor is like obviously not listening. He's like distracted. He's not taking their information seriously. And then we pan over. I think you actually in 2D design you pulled up this screenshot. They like pan over to the sign of the shark attack Amityville. It's very famous. It's a famous cap, and I love that you like analyzed it, and then I get to analyze it now. That's really fun. But they pan over, and the mayor is like, "Do you see this graffiti?" And it says "Shark Attack" with this little lady on a boogie board, and he's like, "Chief of Police, this is your most like put this on your priority list. This is the highest, the vandalism of the sign." And Matt Hooper is like, "Motherfucker, you have a shark in these waters. You should have different priorities." I think how Matt Hooper reacts to the shenanigans is shenaniganery is one of my favorite things about him.
Also, when he gets introduced, the film gets a little lighthearted. Like he's like the little comedic relief character.
A little comedic relief for sure. When he's dissecting I think it was the body of the girl. When he's dissecting and like analyzing, he does be like, "Oh, nasty." Yeah. This is not a boating accident, Chief. Chief Chef. Head chef. But he also, while they're in the room, I think it's Matt Hooper, the chief of police, and the mayor who are in the room, I think. What was the other guy? The morgue. Someone starts, I don't think he has a name. Someone starts smoking, and yeah.
Oh wait, no, the chief. I think he starts.
Oh, so Matt Hooper is like, "Don't smoke in here, please." And I was like, "You tell him." I don't know. I just really like that given a time period that it was normal to smoke indoors, he was like, "Don't do that in my space, bitch." And that just made me respect him a little bit more. He ate. I have a lot of notes. We didn't really, it's more like 4. The first page was someone else. But I think if you're good, we didn't go through it like we wanted to at all. We did not go through the plot. We jumped around a lot. Well, it's the name of the game. We went on a lot of tangents. But it was really fun. I think we hit a lot of interesting points. I think I'm good to call it because my mommy wants me home. My overall review draws 10 out of 10. Can be interpreted any number of ways. Would watch it again, probably with friends and probably not alone.
Yeah, Jaws had me on the edge of my seat from beginning to end. Did I fall asleep? Maybe. But it attacked my soul with visuals that were bloody, gory, sharky, watery. 10 out of 10, bitch.
It's my favorite movie, so please go give it a watch. You won't be disappointed. So much that goes on in there, and there's so much to see in that 2-hour film. So go watch it, or else. No, you won't die, but
I'll eat you.
the shark will eat you.
If you don't watch it, my friend will be sad. So don't go watch it. That's a punishment. Go watch it. And I feel comfortable like film broing out about Jaws because it is fun. It's fun to watch. It's so light. It's like there is a lot of gore and it's a little scary, but also it's really lighthearted and fun. And if you can get into it, I think it's a good watch just because it is so much a part of film history. So like, if you're gonna watch any old movie from the 70s, watch Jaws. It's a classic. It's a classic. I think that I'm good. We're already 75. Okay, you were close. At least we got the decade right. So I think we're gonna call it here. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Pacific Tiger Broadcasting. Goodbye.